Um, Thank you folks for joining us for today's webinar. I think we'll get started. Uh, Welcome to our webinar where we're going to be talking about all the things that are happening in the clean energy workforce. There's a lot of stuff, and a lot of it positive, thanks to the investment and the commitment that a lot of folks in this room have been making and ensuring that we have a clean energy workforce that's on the rise in Illinois. We want to make sure that Illinois continues to be a leader, not only um, within the Midwest, but also for the nation in passing strong clean energy legislation that is supporting our workforce and providing key and good career opportunities for folks that are looking to build a life for themselves and also transition away from fossil fuels and commit to the goals that were set under the Climate Equitable Jobs Act that was passed in 2021. Um, to go into detail into the agenda for a minute, we will be joining with us a few guest speakers, Joe Duffy from Climate Jobs Illinois, Ian Adams from Evergreen, Michaela Preskill from E2, Nate Keener from DCEO, and Colleen Smith from Invenergy. We will be covering some of the growing opportunities in the trades, the Midwest Jobs Report that was recently released by Evergreen and E2, um, some updates on the CEJA workforce programs, and then also some updates from Invenergy's own workforce programs that they're spearheading. And then we will wrap things up by covering one of the newest pieces of legislation that was passed in Veto Session, which was the Clean and Reliable Grid Affordability Act. And that'll be presented by us at IEC. And then we'll be moving over and ending it off with Q&A. And I think to start us off, to talk a little bit about IEC, we have with us on our team Chelsea, who's our chief of staff. I myself am Francisco. I work as the Climate Policy Program Associate. And then also joining us to talk on CERGA will be Samir Hanessian, who's our director on energy policy. I think I'll pass it over to Chelsea.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I hope everyone's doing well and keeping warm. I know most of you on the line probably are familiar with IEC, but I'll go ahead and give you a bit of an overview. So we've been around for about 50 years. We provide policy advocacy focused on the environment in six different issue areas. We focus on sustainable agriculture, conservation, clean energy, equitable transportation, zero waste, and clean water. We bring together folks from around the state that are doing great work in the environment. We have more than 150 organizations that work with IEC in order to advance equitable public policies that create healthy environments in Illinois. So that's essentially who we are. We also, in the last year or so, launched a business council with the intention of building a stronger bridge between industry and advocacy to show that the work that we're doing to help create healthier environments in Illinois is also creating more job opportunity and economic opportunity in the state. So really excited to have this group of folks here today to really showcase some of that, how we're not only supporting environment, but we are supporting economic development in the state. So I will pass it over to our next speaker. Oh, we have a couple more slides. So these were the issue areas that I was talking about. We do coalition building, we educate legislators, and we do policy advocacy. I think we can jump through these. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Chelsea. I think we'll move over into our panelists as well. I think joining with us, we have a lot of amazing folks that are doing some really key and amazing work and really driving this clean energy workforce that is on the rise in Illinois, and that we're not only continuing to preserve despite the feral landscape that we might find ourselves in, but also continuing to strive. So I think first on the list is Joe Duffy, who serves as the executive director of Climate Jobs Illinois. He's organized labor's energy and Climate Coalition, Climate Jobs Illinois plays a very key role in passing both the Climate Equitable Jobs Act, which is CEJA, and Illinois' recent Energy Omnibus, the Clean and Reliable Grid Affordability Act. CEJA set the nation's strongest labor standards for clean energy projects, and CERGA advanced that work by requiring project labor agreements for battery storage facilities and thermal energy networks, continue to provide more protections. Ian Adams from Evergreen is a managing director at Evergreen Climate Initiatives. He brings more than a decade of experience working in energy and climate across investing, operations, and government. Ian oversees Evergreen's platform work, which includes startup support, programming, ecosystem partnerships, research, and impact measurement. In this capacity, Ian works to identify technology and market trends, evaluates new investment opportunities, and develops new initiatives to support climate tech startups. Prior to Evergreen, Ian served in the administration of President Barack Obama at the White House and the U.S. Department of Energy. He is a graduate of University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. And then Michaela Preskill is E2's Director of State Advocacy, overseeing the organization's advocacy staff and strategy. She began her tenure at E2 as the Midwest Advocate, leading the Midwest chapter. In both roles, she has helped grow E2's network of business leaders and elevate the business voice in support of state and federal policies that advance the clean economy. Before joining E2 in 2017, Michaela ran issue electoral and recruitment campaigns in Illinois, Colorado, Washington State, and Massachusetts for the PERG network. And then Nate Keener is the CEJA Central Regional Administrator in the Office of Employment and Training at the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, the DCEO. He came to the DCEO in 2023 after spending 10 years as a Director of Sustainability at Lewis and Clark Community College. His work as a regional administrator involves supporting the Notice of Funding Opportunity Development, conducting outreach to raise awareness of CEJA funding opportunities, and working with selected grantees to develop their grant programs, providing technical assistance to grantees developing CEJA policies, and coordinating regional approaches to clean energy industry workforce development. He lives in Morden with his wife and two daughters and spends his free time chasing kids to events, gardening, reading, and cheering on the Chicago Cubs. And then last, but certainly not least, Colleen Smith serves as Vice President of Government Affairs for Invenergy, uh, uh, a leading privately held developer, owner, and operator of sustainable energy solutions. In her role, Colleen oversees Invenergy state affairs across the West, Midwest, and Southeast markets. Prior to joining Invenergy, Colleen served as the deputy director for the Illinois Environmental Council and in various government and campaign roles. So I think I'll hand it off to our first speaker, Joe Duffy from Climate Jobs Illinois.
Thanks, Francisco. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. As Francisco said, my name is Joe Duffy. I'm the executive director of the Climate Jobs Illinois Coalition. Our coalition is made up of 12 different union affiliates across the state of Illinois, mostly in the construction and building trades. And we were created back in 2020 in advance of the energy omnibus that became the Climate Equitable Jobs Act, also known as CEJA. And we, as organized labor, under the umbrella of the AFL-CIO, as well as the Chicago Federation of Labor, the Cook County Construction and Building Trades, realized that we needed to be proactive in terms of pushing strong labor standards for the energy omnibus that became CEJA, and then moving forward. Because last energy omnibus that Illinois passed back in 2017, the Future Energy Jobs Act, had no labor standards. People are being paid minimum wage to build solar and wind. And it was important that organized labor took a proactive role in ensuring that working families in Illinois were building these jobs of the future that were subsidized by Illinois ratepayers. And as Francisco mentioned, in CEJA, Illinois has the strongest labor standards in the country for clean energy projects, which we're very proud of. And we're continuing to push. And this latest iteration, the omnibus bill that's passed during the veto session, the CERJA bill, continued that work, Senate Bill 25. And what I wanted to do today was talk through some of the labor standards that are in the bill in terms of continuing the work that Climate Jobs Illinois, our union affiliates, as well as our national partner, the Climate Jobs National Resource Center, have been working on over the last couple years. So there's a few different things in the bill in terms of labor standards that I wanted to highlight. Obviously, one of the main components of uh, the energy omnibus was battery storage and subsidizing those battery storage for clean energy projects. And what this bill does is it requires project labor agreements, ensuring that the local county and construction building trades that live in that area where these projects will be based would get that work opposed to out-of-state workers. It also has labor peace agreement language in terms of the ongoing maintenance of those batteries, which is important so that these aren't just temporary construction jobs. These are also long-term jobs for those local communities as well. Um, it also has project labor agreements on the few other components of the bill, the thermal energy network systems, which is something that I know that is important to a lot of folks on this call, as well as organized labor, as well as the geothermal pilot program that the Energy Omnibus created as well, which is important again for the folks that are building those projects are from that community. It also makes some changes to community solar. Um, One of the things that we saw post CEJA in CEJA, all utility scale projects for wind and solar over 5 megawatts required a project labor agreement, and we've seen a tremendous amount of work since then. And obviously, there's a mad dash to get as much projects in the ground with the IRA tax credits expiring. Illinois actually has the largest solar project east of the Mississippi, down in Sangamon County, the Double Black Diamond. It was built all union and was completed just recently, a year or two ago. And That's something that we're really proud of. However, we saw with the community solar projects that those under 5 megawatts, there was a significant amount of people from out of state that were coming in, bringing in people from Indiana or Wisconsin or Iowa to build these projects that are subsidized by Illinois ratepayers. And we didn't think that was right. So what we did was we fixed it. We worked with the environmental community as well as legislators and a variety of other stakeholders to ensure that all projects over 3 megawatts now require using a project labor agreement to hire locally. And those projects now, instead of being able to build up to 5 megawatts, can now go up to 10 megawatts, which is really important for us to make sure that that money and those jobs are staying in Illinois. In addition to that, there's a few other changes to the bill that's important to organize labor and clean energy jobs. It also strengthens the Climate Works pre-apprenticeship program, which DCEO will be talking about in terms of some of the workforce development programs that were created in CEJA. Hold on 1 minute. Sorry about that. So the Climate Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program is an important program, one of the workforce development programs that was created in CEJA that gets folks prepared to get a job in the trades, to get into an apprenticeship program. And our friends at Hire 360, our workforce development partner, run the hubs in Central and Southern Illinois, and it strengthens that program that was created in CEJA by ensuring that we can recruit more people from underserved communities to get more diversity in the construction and building trades. It also creates a bid credit program for the Climate Works program that gives contractors an incentive to hire more folks that graduate from that program. And what we're seeing is over 75% of those folks or from our diverse candidates. And this program was just launched at the beginning of this year, mostly across the state. And so we want to strengthen that program to ensure that folks are getting into an apprenticeship program, getting into these clean energy jobs of the future. A few other things just want to highlight. In the bill. It also gives a bid credit preference for contractors that are located within the utility service zone on energy efficiency work. So that ensures that we were having local contractors that are getting um, those resources for those that increase in energy efficiency dollars that we saw in the energy omnibus. And then obviously the high road labor standards for the continuation of the utility scale wind and solar projects is really important to us, as well as strengthening solar on public schools. It makes some fixes to solar contracts to hopefully get more solar on schools, which is really a win-win in terms of getting more power onto the grid, clean energy onto the grid, but also lowering utility bills for public schools, which benefits obviously Illinois as a whole. So those are a couple things I just wanted to touch upon that were in this energy omnibus. We're excited to see a lot of these programs get up and running, and I think it's really important in terms of ensuring that, and we've had a great working relationship with the IEC as well as a variety of other environmental groups to work together to get a bill like this passed, because we want to ensure that obviously we're building as much clean energy as possible, but we're also ensuring that we're paying people a livable wage, that we're hiring people locally that are benefiting from these clean energy jobs of the future. So happy to answer any questions. I appreciate the time, and we look forward to working together in the coming months and years. Thanks.
Thank you. I think we'll move over to our next speaker from Evergreen and E2. Talk a little bit about the Clean Jobs Midwest and the Midwest Jobs Report that was just released.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Hello, everybody. My name is Michaela Preskill. Well, thank you so much for the intro earlier and for having me on here today, Francisco. So I'm the Director of State Advocacy with E2. I'm going to kick us off talking about the Clean Jobs Midwest report, and then I'm going to pass it over to Ian Adams at Evergreen Climate Innovations, who will take it from there. So, the Clean Jobs Midwest report is released each year in partnership between E2 and Evergreen Climate Innovations, and we're so grateful for their partnership each year. We just heard about the tremendous opportunity for clean energy jobs growth in the future, thanks to state policy. So in this part of the webinar, we're going to take a step back. We're going to talk about what the data says about how many clean jobs are here now and where they are. So we can go to the next slide. So what is the Clean Jobs Midwest? Oh, there's a try click. Oh, there we go. Okay. I don't know if that was just a delay on my end, but it didn't come through right away at first. Okay. So what is the Clean Jobs Midwest report? So this is a report that details the size and scope of the clean energy industry. It looks at the total number of jobs by state across the 12 Midwest state region. The data actually comes from the Department of Energy. So each year, the Department of Energy releases the United States Energy and Employment Report. And that looks at not just clean sources of energy jobs, but traditional energy jobs as well. We take the source data from that report and we package it up at E2 into a Clean Jobs America report that looks at all 50 states just looking at the clean energy jobs. And then in partnership with Evergreen, we produce Clean Jobs Midwest each year, which is, you should all check it out, cleanjobsmidwest.com. There's a lot to explore on that website, a lot of which we'll walk through with you today, as far as clean energy jobs in every Midwest state, profiles of workers, jobs by county, etc. Um, so that's where the report comes from. I'll talk a little bit more about the data in the next slide. You want to go to the next slide? Perfect. Thank you. So the USEER report, where we derive all of our data for Clean Jobs Midwest, is the most comprehensive calculation of energy-related employment available. It comes from two main data sources: the Bureau of Labor Statistics Quarterly Census of Employment and Wages, which that is a comprehensive aggregation of state and unemployment insurance records, and then the process for creating the USEER report also includes a survey of a subsector of energy employers, and those two are then taken together to produce the USEER. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, so what are we tracking in this report? What do we mean by clean energy jobs? So this includes jobs in energy efficiency, which is actually the largest sector of clean energy jobs. Renewable energy like wind and solar. I think most of us, when we think of clean energy job, we think of someone climbing onto a roof and installing a solar panel. Of course, that's part of what we track, but it's by no means all that we track. And clean transportation, such as EV, manufacturing, grid and storage technologies, and clean fuels. I mentioned that energy efficiency is the largest segment. Energy efficiency is almost 70% of clean energy jobs. And it's a lot of jobs you wouldn't necessarily think of as being part of the clean energy industry. People going into homes and making them more energy efficient, replacing light bulbs, jobs like that. These are all these jobs together make up the clean energy industry. And it's not just engineers or scientists, it's construction workers, electricians, technicians, manufacturers, etc. If you want to see the human side of clean energy jobs, check out cleanjobsmidwest.com. We feature stories of people like Isaiah Field, who's doing analysis to make sure a site is ready to build solar, and Emma Hayali, who's an engineer ensuring quality of the items that come out of a manufacturing facility outside Detroit. They're building EV charging there. Just some of the types of people that we profile. Okay, I've been talking for a while and I haven't said any numbers yet, so don't worry, we're getting to the numbers. We'll go to the next slide. So across the country, there are 3.5 million clean energy jobs, 132,000 of which are in Illinois. Illinois ranks 5th in the country and 1st overall in the Midwest. A major takeaway of all this analysis is just how important clean energy jobs are to the economy of each of our Midwest states. A few, these are actually national stats to just give you a sense. So 82% of all new energy jobs are in clean energy. So the future of the energy industry is clean. And a big majority of that industry is manufacturing and construction jobs. Of the 3.5 million across the country, 2.2 million are in manufacturing and construction. And overall, clean energy jobs grew 3 times faster than the rest of U.S. overall employment. That's across the country. The numbers are even better just looking at Illinois. So one more slide for me, and then I'll pass it over to Ian. This is just a look at the Midwest region. So again, Clean Jobs Midwest looks at the 12-state Midwest region, but at Clean Jobs America tracks all all the regions listed on this slide. So just how does the Midwest stack up against the rest? I think the big takeaway here is that clean energy jobs are growing in every region in the country. Southern states actually led in 2024, adding nearly 42,000 new jobs. Well, the Midwest, of course, is continuing to see steady growth. But I think what this slide underscores is just that their clean jobs are growing everywhere. and there's nationwide benefits. And clean energy jobs are not political. They're growing in nearly all 50 states. So I'm going to pass it to Ian, who will start drilling down to the Midwest and then to Illinois.
Thank you, Michaela. So here's a little bit more about how this breaks down. As Michaela was saying, a lot of these jobs are in energy efficiency, and while people can envision solar and wind jobs, they often really don't see or understand where those jobs are in energy efficiency. So that's the biggest chunk in the Midwest, as well as in every state in the region. And then within those subsectors, larger portions of these subsectors, wind, solar, storage, these are areas where we're seeing growth. You can hop to the next slide and we'll look at the same cut of data, but specifically for the state of Illinois. So if you were to toggle back and forth, you see pretty similar trends overall. Largest employer in the Midwest is energy efficiency. That is true, of course, for Illinois as well. You can hop to the next slide. So looking at the details here, this past year has, in some areas, there's been growth, particularly in the clean vehicle space. There's been a real retrenchment, and so we've seen that affect the data in a few different ways. So that had a very good year in 2022, following the IRA. And has been less strong. So clean vehicles jobs actually dropped just a little bit in Illinois in this past year. Overall, clean energy jobs still were growing and growing faster than the overall economy in the state. And every other sector of clean energy jobs across renewable energy, grid and storage, energy efficiency, and clean fuels was adding jobs, but not typically as quickly as they were the previous year. We can hop to the next slide. As we're comparing to other states in the region, Illinois is at the top of overall jobs and in most categories of these jobs. One thing that we see writ large when we're doing this analysis is that the clean energy workforce is a really important part of the economy in Illinois and across the country, as Michaela was saying. And so it actually tends to echo overall macroeconomic trends. So Illinois is the most populous state in the Midwest. And so it's not that surprising that they also have the most clean energy jobs. And it generally waterfalls according to population. I think that's just really a reflection that yes, there's people out working on building wind turbines and on solar panels, and those are fantastic jobs. But also there are jobs all over the place that tie into the clean energy industry, in particular, many that folks do not see. On the right here, the only category where Illinois was not the leader in the Midwest was in the clean vehicle space. Michigan, with its history of automotive manufacturing, is the leader there. And then they have a supply chain spread in Ohio and Indiana that also put those in the top 5. We can go to that next slide, just highlighting a couple data points. I think I referenced that the clean energy jobs in Illinois were growing faster than the overall workforce. So still an important driver there. And then over to my final slide, just a few more points. As we've been talking about, CERGA, it is really providing an opportunity for Illinois to double down on clean energy jobs, particularly in the storage space, even as the OBBBA has injected more uncertainty into the future of clean energy job growth. So I will leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think I'll move it to our next speaker, Nate Keener from DCEO.
All right, thanks, Francisco, and thanks for having me today. I'm here to provide a very quick update on the CEJA workforce programs in the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunities, DCEO's Office of Employment and Training, or the OET portfolio. Next slide, please. So just to take a quick step back to put it in context, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act funds a number of programs at DCEO and elsewhere, and one of the major tasks of all the agencies tasked with its implementation is to coordinate all the components into an overall project that employs equity investment eligible people in family-sustaining jobs that build renewable energy infrastructure across the state so that Illinois can meet its renewable energy goals. And here's just a snapshot of what that looks like in DCEO. So each square is the CEJA portfolio for a different office at DCEO. My office, OET, administers the CEJA and FEJA workforce programs in the yellow box there on the left. Um, but those programs exist in a broader context, even here at DCEO. So we want the workers trained in our programs in the yellow box on the left to go to work for or even start small businesses or contractor businesses supported by CEJA contractor programs, which are designed to help people start or expand businesses in clean energy industries and then win projects to build renewable energy across the state. Those contractor support programs are managed by the Office of Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Technology, or OEIT, at DCEO, and those are the programs in the kind of orangish box there on the top right. And then in the blue box on the bottom right, those are the CEJA economic development programs that are administered by the Office of Energy and Business Utility here at DCEO. And they exist to fund many of those projects that we hope will be led by contractors supported by the CEJA contractor programs with workers hired from our workforce training programs. And so we call this the CEJA ecosystem. And there's I could probably make a much busier and wild slide that nobody could read or interpret that has like the connection points to all of the other agencies administering CEJA, which then connect out to all the other existing state and local and federal programs that we want to partner with as well. But suffice to say, this is the CEJA ecosystem at DCEO. Next slide, please. So with my limited time here, I wanted to focus primarily on the workforce programs in OET. So we have the Clean Jobs Workforce Network program, otherwise known as the Workforce Hubs. This is the largest and probably the most well-known of the programs in our office. The goal of this program is to prepare people for good-paying entry-level clean energy jobs by providing clean jobs training, which utilizes a standard clean jobs curriculum framework. This program is being delivered at 14 hub locations throughout the state. There's $24 million per year of funding, plus $15 million for barrier reduction services for wraparound supports and other student support services. Participants receive a stipend for their time in the program, and it's being delivered by community-based organizations and their partners. Next slide, please. And here's some additional detail about the rollout of this program. We have 4 new grantees coming on board now who will start offering services in January. 33 total training locations so far, still trying to determine how many additional locations are going to be added by our new grantees, but you can count on at least 4 more there. And then we do include the new grantees here in this next section that talks about the number of each kind of program. So starting in January, we will have 12 solar programs, 10 HVAC training programs, 7 EV or EV charge station installation programs, 13 weatherization, energy auditing, building inspection programs, and then 4 programs with partnerships with manufacturers. And just a couple of notes on these. So you'll note that that efficiency space is also the biggest I guess category of training programs that we have, similar to the kind of the number of jobs that were shown a minute ago. And then also wanted to point out this manufacturing piece too. As it, I think, kind of coincides with one of the slides that was in the previous presentation as well, where it showed the employment by industry and EVs with Michigan on top. So these manufacturing programs are largely centered around the EV industry too, either actually assembling the electric vehicles or some component of them, like the batteries or like cooling systems or things like that. And then, of course, all of these programs offer robust support for reducing or eliminating barriers that folks may be experiencing, preventing them from completing training programs and getting employment. Next slide, please. Next up, this was mentioned, I think, by Joe earlier, is the Climate Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. And the goal of this program is to prepare people for apprenticeship programs in the construction and the building trades. The pre-apprenticeship programs utilize a construction training curriculum, either NCCER or MC3, with a clean energy focus. And this program is being delivered in 3 regions across multiple training sites throughout the state. This program has $10 million of funding, plus an extra $16 million plus an extra $6 million per year for barrier reduction services, and is being delivered by community-based organizations and their partners. Next slide, please. And for this program, we have two grantees across the three grants. So 548 Foundation is the grantee in the Chicagoland region in blue, and Hire 360 won the award in the central region in orange-ish, as well as the award in the southern region in pink. And the black dots there represent the 20 training locations for this program. Next slide. The next program is the Energy Transition Navigator Program, and the main goal of this program is to increase awareness of and participation in the CEJA programs. They're providing recruitment and enrollment and engagement throughout communities in Illinois to help support the CEJA workforce programs. They primarily focus on the workforce hubs and the Climate Works programs, but they also help to recruit for the contractor programs, FEJA programs, and potentially even other non-CEJA programs if those will be the best fit for interested participants. This is being delivered throughout the state in the same locations as the 14 hubs and surrounding areas, and is being delivered by community-based providers and any partners that they have. Um, let's see. Next slide, please. And then finally, the fourth workforce program that's part of the CEJA ecosystem is the Returning Residents Clean Jobs Training Program. The goal of this program is to prepare returning residents for good-paying entry-level clean energy jobs. It will provide training inside Illinois Department of Corrections facilities utilizing the standard Clean Jobs curriculum, similar to the one used by the workforce hubs. The funding for this program is $6 million per year, and it's going to be delivered by community-based organizations and their partners. This program is being implemented in 4 locations: the Kewanee Life Skills Reentry Center in Kewanee, the Decatur Correctional Center in Decatur, which is a women's facility, the Western Correctional Center in Mount Sterling in Western Illinois, and the Vienna Correctional Center in Vienna. We have 4 grantees wrapping up establishment now for that program and still anticipate services to start very soon. Next slide. Not much new here except to show you the map of how those programs are distributed. So Kewanee in the north, and then Mount Sterling in the west, Decatur on the east, and then Vienna down on the south end of the state. Next slide. Yep, thank you. So in terms of process, just to summarize, we have the 4 new Workforce Hub grantees coming online in Kankakee, Peoria, Danville, and Carbondale. We have 3 new Energy Transition Navigator grantees being onboarded in Kankakee, Champaign, and Decatur. And then we have 4 new returning residence grantees being onboarded in Kewanee, Mount Sterling, Decatur, and Vienna. Next slide. And finally, wanted to provide a little update in terms of the data and the outcomes that we're seeing. So these are numbers reported in November, so are accurate through October. I say accurate in the process of being verified for October. So as of October reporting, we have awarded 28 grants with 11 more in the establishment process right now, which will start offering services in January. That amounts to around $69 million in awards, plus another 6 or so coming online as of January. In the first year, a little more than a year of offering these programs, we've enrolled 2,400 participants, with 939 of those enrollees having already completed a training program. 331 folks have been placed in clean energy jobs, registered apprenticeships, or advanced training programs. And then another 143 people have been placed in jobs, apprenticeship programs, or training programs that may not be directly tied to the clean energy industry. So right around half of the current graduates have been placed in jobs or additional training. And obviously, that's something that we're beginning to focus on much more now that we're getting these programs stood up and off the ground and offering services. So that will be a big focus of our work over the next year is trying to make sure we get those placements ramped up so that we can have our students join the ranks of all those employees that we just all those workers that we just saw in the previous presentation. And I think that's it for me. I think there's one more slide with my contact information. So definitely feel free to reach out to me at nate.keener@illinois.gov or send any kind of general questions to ceo.ceja@illinois.gov. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Nate. There's a lot of amazing progress being done at the state level with CEJA's investments into our clean energy workforce. But we're not alone at the state level. We have a lot of amazing partners doing a lot of great work, um, providing some workforce training. And to hear more about that, I'll pass it over to Invenergy and Colleen.
Thanks, Francisco. Pleasure to be here. Really wonderful presentations already. Taking a little bit of a different tact as we think about workforce and going to what Michaela said, Invenergy's a big part of the success of Illinois' clean energy workforce. So, Francisco, if you want to go to the next slide, just want to give folks who maybe aren't familiar with Invenergy a high-level background of who we are. So, we're the US's largest privately held energy company. We've been headquartered in Chicago since our inception over 20 years ago. And across that time, we've developed over 36 gigawatts of projects from the technologies that you see here today. And in Illinois, we've developed over 3 gigawatts of clean energy projects that are in operation today, with another multiple gigawatts of projects either under development or construction or in other early stages. So we have a kind of an outsized perspective from a clean energy company as to what it means to need to train our workforce because of who our employees are and the scale of projects that we're working on. I also wanted to note, we have Invenergy, which tends to do kind of the development, the construction of projects, working with contractors, working with folks that Joe referenced. And then we also have Invenergy Services, which I'll get to next, which is our operations. And that's really the focus of our workforce training program. And I did want to just quickly note, Invenergy is also a domestic solar manufacturer. We employ 1,600 people in Ohio, where we're supporting the onshoring of the solar supply chain. And of course, being headquartered in Chicago, we have over 700 employees downtown that are contributing to that Illinois number that Michaela referenced. Francisca, you can go ahead to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit more about Invenergy Services. So when you have a clean energy project, I'll focus on wind, solar storage. We're working typically with the contractor during the construction, and a lot of the workforce programs that Nate and others have referenced and this legislation has focused on is really more about getting folks into the construction of these projects. We're not necessarily we're not hiring directly those who are going to be working on the construction of our projects. Although, again, in Illinois, we've worked with contractors that have worked with organized labor to build these projects. But then once a project is built, Invenergy is a developer, owner, and operator. Some clean energy companies just develop a project. Some might continue to own those. But Invenergy is also, through our Invenergy Services division, an operator of clean energy projects, both for projects we continue to own and for projects our customers own. So I'll give a little bit of a background on that as well, and some examples here in Illinois as we head towards what that looks like for that team to be trained. In Illinois, we have kind of our flagship wind solar storage complex called Grand Ridge, which is in LaSalle County. We have individuals there. That's a project Invenergy developed, Invenergy continues to own, and Invenergy continues to operate. So the technicians that are getting trained, that I'll talk about, that are Invenergy employees, are still working on those facilities throughout the duration of those projects' life. And I always love to tell the story of someone who works on one of those sites. He told me he used to drive from Ottawa to Chicago each way every day to help install sprinklers. Well, now he gets to drive 10 minutes to our wind solar storage site, work as a technician, go home, still farm in the afternoon, and really is part of that community. And he was able to get that training and to work on a site because of the workforce training Invenergy does. What you'll see on this slide is the scale of projects that we are operating on behalf of either our owned projects or our customers. So over 25 gigawatts, and that's global. We have a significant North America presence as well as South America and abroad. And these are some of the partners we work with. So while I mentioned that Grand Ridge facility that we continue to own and operate, we also have wind projects in McLean County that we no longer own, but the owner of that project has contracted with Invenergy, so we continue to operate it on their behalf. And that's because of Invenergy's best-in-class excellence in operation. Francisco, you can go to the next slide and I'll talk a little bit about what do we mean when we say operate a wind project or a solar project or a storage project. Well, these projects need less employees round the clock as maybe traditional power plants. They still require a significant amount of operations and maintenance services. So we have something called our Generation Control Center, which I can talk about as a NERC certified, kind of sometimes we call it the NASA of our operations fleet, but a facility that's located both at our Center of Excellence and a backup location at our Chicago headquarters, where we're doing remote asset monitoring and reset. The control center allows us to understand when there might need to be outages, when there's curtailment. So we have a group of our technicians that are focused on that type of work. Then, of course, we have on-site O&M, which is, what you're seeing in this picture. We've got technicians that are going up, doing drivetrain repair, supporting blade issues with troubleshooting, minor corrections, and then of course we have these other types of services. So across our operations engineering team, we're talking about mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, as well as just the individuals doing various performance testing, which may not be individuals with robust engineering backgrounds. You can head to the next slide. These are just some examples of what it looks like. Again, a little bit more focused on wind, but when we're talking about ensuring asset health, these are large infrastructure projects. These projects are operational for 20 plus years. And especially in the wind industry, we're starting to see, conversations around repowering, conversations around repair, how we're maintaining the health of these facilities really requires us to be proactive about equipment condition. So some of these are drone shots that you'll see where we inspect how the blades look, and then you've got our technicians here, a little braver than I, going up with the harness and really inspecting, as well as doing some of those repairs. Everything from, I won't get into all of these specifics because unless you're an engineer, you probably don't know what a turnkey blade replacement is. But that's a huge portion of our wind portfolio. In particular, of course, from a solar aspect, we're doing very similar work around maintaining the asset health. Go ahead and head to the next slide. So this is an image, and Francisco and Chelsea joined a tour we held at our Center of Excellence, which is kind of our now flagship workforce training facility. Previously, Invenergy has always been training our over 1,200 operation Invenergy services employees, kind of either on site, or for a while we were doing satellite workforce training out of hotel rooms, right? It's been a little bit more disparate. And we recognized as the industry continues to grow, as Invenergy's service portfolio continues to grow, we needed to have this kind of hands-on classroom where we could distill maybe multiple weeks of training that you would see out in the field, trying to simulate certain issues down to a few days. And so we were really excited to work with partners across the state and within Will County to develop this Center of Excellence, which is located in Bolingbrook, Illinois, where we're training hundreds of our technicians throughout every year. We're estimated to train up to 1,200 annually. To date, we've trained 175 since Center of Excellence really kicked off in January of this year. So what you're seeing, yeah, I'll talk about this and then we can go back to the photo after, are four component parts. So the training center is a hands-on classroom. So we have smaller simulations of a drivetrain of a wind turbine. We have a solar panel. You can see on that previous slide, we have a storage, we have a substation. We have these sorts of things so that these employees who may not have any energy background or engineering background can come in and can get a full-scale hands-on training. We also have various other parts of our Center of Excellence. So how are we warehousing? How are we making sure we can do this machine repair to continue to extend the lifespan of projects instead of a full-scale repower that might be taking a complete turbine and erecting a new one? Are there partial repairs that we can do to extend the life of that turbine another 10, 15 years in a faster and more cost-effective manner? So again, it's a large facility. We've never had something like this before, and it allows us to really lean into that workforce training component. You can go to the next slide, Francisco. Yeah, so once again, just what you're seeing here are some of the classrooms. It's really a state-of-the-art facility, has advanced labs, real-world equipment, and everything that the technicians need to develop practical skills critical to wind and solar energy operations. I mentioned we already have 175 technicians. Those are technicians across the globe that have come into Chicago, come to our site in Bolingbrook, and then are going back out to our sites across the United States as well. So we're going to train over 150 new technicians annually, in addition to our existing services employees that might need continuing education as we see advancements in clean energy. Yeah, and then as I mentioned, our generation control center. So you can see here, this is where we're doing hands-on, excuse me, critical security, making sure that we're managing in real time, 24/7, all of our 100 projects over 20 gigawatts across most of our markets in the US. And that's a site that used to have maybe 2 computers. And as we've continued to grow and our industry has continued to grow, we have grown out of our space and are now also moved that generation control center to the Center of Excellence. So I think that's my last slide, but I'll just say at a high level, Invenergy is really focused on maintaining safe execution of our projects, and that extends in a way beyond just construction and how we're keeping our employees and our communities and our assets working well throughout the duration of those projects' lifespan. These aren't projects or training programs that were spun from any of the legislation, nor do we participate in any of the programs that Nate mentioned. But this is really where a lot of companies are going as they're looking at the operation of projects. So I think that's all I have. Thanks, Francisco.
Thank you. Uh, Yeah, it's amazing seeing all the amazing work that Invenergy is doing on the industry and business side of things, sort of coupling in with the state's own investment into our workforce training programs. Um, but CEJA isn't the only thing that is really leading in our transition towards 100% clean energy. To talk a little bit more about this new emerging legislation that passed in Veto, I'll pass it over to Samira.
Thanks, Francisco. Hi, everyone. My name is Samira Hanassian. I'm the Energy Policy Director at IEC. Really happy to be here to tell you a little bit about a new bill that just passed this veto session in October. We were up really late the last evening of the session to get this passed, and really excited to tell you a little bit more about it. Next slide, please. So we passed, first we started with FEJA, Future Energy Jobs Act, and then we passed CEJA, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. And now we just passed the Clean and Reliable Grid Affordability Act, or CRGA. We just passed 3 really big climate bills in the last decade here in Illinois, which is incredible. We continue to lead the way nationally, and I'm just really excited of what we've been able to accomplish here. I do want to start by saying that the energy landscape has shifted throughout the decade, and it is notable to say that back when CEJA passed in 2021, we were coming out of a pandemic, still in one, and starting to shift out of one. The market has shifted quite a bit, and I'm going to take a moment to talk about what's been happening even at a federal level that's had a domino effect here in Illinois, and really frame why it's been so important to pass a continuation that can build off of CEJA and ensure that we can continue to do what we need to do to reach our clean energy goals on time. Next slide, please. So at the federal level, we've seen some pretty incredible market shifts just within the last year. We have seen a significant number of AI data centers, so really large energy users, come online in a short period of time. We have also seen rollbacks, clean energy rollbacks from the federal government. And this has had an immense impact on developers and consumers trying to take advantage of clean energy tax credits. Next slide, please. And then we've also been seeing an increase in historic rate hikes, really annually, both here in Illinois, but that starts at the RTO federal level, to both PJM and MISO, for example, in the electric sector, have continuously been increasing rates that end up trickling down for all of us to also see higher utility bills. And the connection here with the larger data centers coming online is this creates a constraint on our grid. So where energy demand is increasing, the supply needs to either be able to meet that, or something needs to give. And as large users are coming online, we're all sharing the same grid, which means everyday ratepayers like you and me end up paying more for the electricity use of these large users. So there is a lot happening in the power sector overall right now. And we've really needed to make sure that we're doing what we can here at the state level to ensure consumer protections and also grid reliability. We are dealing with grid infrastructure that is over 50 years and needs to both be updated and modernized and expanded to meet the energy demands of today. So by staying on the same path and not passing the bill that we did, it was understood that we would see potentially a significant jump in energy prices that would only continue for the next few years. So inaction would have cost ComEd customers about $24 by 2030, an increase. And then for Ameren customers, annual bills would go up by about $120 by 2030. That's really, really significant. Even bills going up just by a couple of bucks does hurt. And so the state leaders recognized we need to do something today so that we can prepare ourselves over the next 5+ years. Next slide, please. So that brings me to what exactly does the Clean and Reliable Grid Affordability Act solve for? And it does a few things. It provides consumers with tools to lower their energy bills, accelerate the growth of clean energy and battery storage. reduce demand on our power grid through energy efficiency, improve state energy planning and modeling, and support the build out of transmission infrastructure. Next slide, please. So with the passage of CRGA, we're really able to project benefits in many ways. First and foremost is making cost-effective investments in clean energy resources. In very simple terms, we want to see more clean and renewable energy deployment, and we want utility rates to go down. And so one thing that I really like to highlight about this bill, the Illinois Power Agency provided a financial cost analysis on the entire bill, and they determined that overall the bill will deliver $13 in reduced cost for every dollar invested. Additionally, and there are some increased energy efficiency options through the bill that I'll talk a little bit more about. But this will lead overall to bill savings of up to $10.59 per month and $2.03 per month by 2030 in Ameren and ComEd territories, respectively. And then by 2035, Ameren customers can see benefits of $20.54 per month, as well as $5.06 per month for ComEd customers. So really significant savings anticipated as a result of this bill, and it definitely beats having to pay a lot more without the benefits of everything else that comes with this. Next slide, please. So this slide speaks for itself, but essentially, CERJA is that next really big clean energy bill and next step in climate action for the state, both in passing CERJA and another bill, NETA. This veto session, Illinois had the most historic climate week in our history, passing two significant comprehensive climate bills. This one in particular, as I said, reduces rates and will move towards a modern power grid. And it's really important that we are continuing to build capacity while lowering peak demand through innovative programs and technologies. Next slide, please. So I mentioned a little bit about accelerating clean energy. Obviously, this is really good for jobs. We've heard extensively throughout this webinar on growing clean energy jobs and various opportunities for clean energy related workforce and green jobs in the state. It's really, really important that we continue to support the building out of clean and renewable energy projects. And through CERJA, we are going to ensure, or through CERJA, we are ensuring that everyone has an equal right to solar access. We've been seeing a lot of projects across the state in various counties get rejected, and even municipalities get rejected without really seeing a due process where there's a proper vote on whether or not to approve various projects. So through Solar Bill of Rights, it ensures that counties and municipalities have to have a proper process for hearing out renewable energy projects within their jurisdictions. Next slide, thank you. And then another piece here is adding battery storage. Currently in the state and historically in the state, we haven't really established a market for battery storage. So through CERJA, we will be able to create a market here in Illinois. And think the opportunities from a jobs perspective are pretty endless in the same way that any form of technology or clean energy innovation has been able to take off. Because it involves anything from research and development to installation and maintenance, everything in between and beyond. But battery storage is really critical to pair with renewable energy in particular to ensure that during other high demand times, stored energy is able to help boost what energy is provided and used at a given time, and or during off-peak times. So when the sun isn't shining, storage can, or the wind isn't blowing, storage can offer that stored energy during the off-peak time for use, which decreases overall reliance on, can decrease reliance on the grid overall if somebody has their own renewables and battery storage on site, and or provides an opportunity to decrease fossil fuel use overall on our grid. So just as part of that market increase, there will be a battery storage for all program created through the Illinois Power Agency, an energy storage procurement program. Okay, next slide. And there is a goal to stand up 3 gigawatts of battery storage by 2030. So energy efficiency is another really big component here. We fought and won benefits for both electric and gas. Ratepayers, very proud of being able to increase energy efficiency offerings through NICOR and People's Gas. They will have an opportunity to increase their savings, energy efficiency savings goals within their next planning cycle. And then on the electric side, really ensuring that both ComEd and Ameren energy efficiency programs are coming into parity with each other. ComEd customers actually have been significantly benefiting more than Ameren customers through those EE programs, and this ensures that Ameren customers can see greater benefits, and also ComEd customers can benefit even more. So it increases efficiency goals to a 2% annual savings, which is higher. That's great. Next slide, please. Okay, and then around accelerating building decarbonization, there are a couple new programs that are being stood up. One is Geothermal Homes and Businesses Program. There will be investments of $10 million per year starting in 2028 through the RPS to fund geothermal projects. And then thermal energy networks, or TENS, pilot program will be stood up. This uses existing federal funding, so it not the state. And there will be up to $20 million recoverable through rates for any of those projects that will be available through the Green Bank. Next slide. Okay, so just to close out, with the Clean and Reliable Grid Affordability Act, we're really, really excited for the state to be able to model our energy use for the first time, to be able to more formally plan, hey, what is the best energy mix in juncture with the highest consumer savings possible, to figure out the best procurement pathway forward in energy mix for the state. That's really big, and that'll be both for the state as well as municipal and cooperative electric utilities. And this is over a 1,000-page bill, so there is quite a bit in there, but very excited about the job opportunities and how this will just build upon what's happening with with CEJA implementation. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of amazing programs that are being stood up and also accelerated through CERGA, building off of the foundation that CEJA really gave the state in our investment and transition towards clean energy. Um, that wraps up the presentation portion of this webinar. I think right now we'll be turning to the chat, and then folks, if you want to bombard us with your questions. I know we gave you a whole lot of information. Um, so folks can send any questions that you might have. I saw one of the questions early on. Panelists are comfortable with it. Can their emails be shared? That was sent by Lily Aaron. I think we'll be giving out folks contacts if they're comfortable with it. And then they'll probably that can be included in the follow-up. Um, And then a question from uh, David Hughes Muller. Does Invenergy work with community colleges for some baseline education to prep for your more applied training programs? I think Colleen answered. So do we not need individuals to have any training before enrolling in our training program in Invenergy? But they do work with community colleges. Um, uh, Near the Center of Excellence, such as Joliet Community College, where their sites are located. They want to hire folks from the community that are committed to staying in the community for years and working at their projects. Uh, and then Ruby from Safer Foundation asked, can I get a copy of the slides that were used today? I believe we will be sending out a copy of these slides in the follow-up email, and then also recording of this webinar as well. Any other questions from folks in the chat? I see a question from uh, Libby. Thanks for the great webinar. How does transmission build out needs touch on the Illinois workforce needs? Are organizations associated with today's webinar doing work in that realm?
Yeah, I could answer briefly. Curious if Joe wants to weigh in here. I mean, obviously, Invenergy is a leading transmission developer across the country and has already developed thousands of miles of transmission lines. Again, our workforce training is really focused on the operational side. And so, when you think about the Generation Control Center I mentioned and uh, some of the maintenance and asset management in that realm, that's something we're already thinking about. Construction, again, isn't something Invenergy is going to be hiring, but we did make an announcement of a contractor that's working with us on our Greenbelt Express project. And so that contractor has robust experience working with labor and making sure that folks are trained in transmission build out, which is nothing new, right? We have transmission lines all across this state, all across this country. But Joe, I don't know if there's anything or anyone else wants to add to that question.
I can jump in and just say that, the Climate Works program is really trying to get our participants, our workforce students into the construction and building trades. So I think that's one avenue. Um, as we move into, second and third years of these workforce programs, I think one of the things that we're interested in looking at is kind of the curriculum framework and what are the occupations that we're training toward, and wanting to keep an eye on wanting to what is it? Inspire, I don't know, want to inspire our grantees to think more broadly about the fields that they're training in. So maybe it's not specifically just solar installer, but is it other aspects of the solar energy build out? But then also, so I think um, taking a look at how do we work with our grantees to kind of expand their offerings into additional occupations, but then I think also generalizing some of this to be resilient for the impacts of kind of the federal um, changes at the federal level. So maybe if we anticipate seeing a slowdown in maybe hiring for, like, for example, solar installers, then maybe we need to focus more on like electrician skills, like generalizing those skills so that they're applicable to a kind of a wider array of occupations. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at.
Thank you. And then another question from Jacqueline. Are there any programs specifically to work with GCs or subcontractors who are hiring large amounts of workers from these workforce programs?
So in DCEO, we do have the contractor support programs, the Clean Energy Contractor Incubator Program, and the Clean Energy Contractor Primes Accelerator Program. And those are managed out of a different office, so I'm not as in the weeds with those two programs as I am the workforce programs, but I do know that those programs are for helping people kind of level up their clean energy business or start a new business in the clean energy field, or kind of turn their operations toward the clean energy field, and then work to bid on state-led projects that are helping to build out the renewable energy infrastructure. And so, one of those workflows I think that we're still trying to establish is getting those workforce programs in not just connection, but like seamless work with those contractor programs so we can get those sort of pipelines going of, the contractors supported by our contractor programs, hiring from our workforce programs, and then going to our economic development programs and applying for funding like with their municipality or other arrangements to build large scale renewable energy projects that way.
Thank you. And then another question from Lily. Um, any insight on agrivoltaics or opportunities for agricultural communities to be further engaged? I know we are also at time with the webinars. I think we'll end with this question.
I'll be really brief in my answer then, just to say, Lily, these large scale energy projects are only possible in partnership with agricultural communities. These are voluntary lease agreements. We are working with predominantly farmers, multi-generational family farms that are looking at this as a means to diversify their income stream and continue to keep their land in their families for generations to come. We do not have eminent domain authority to build a wind project, right? This is about these landowners benefiting first and foremost. Otherwise, these projects don't come to fruition. So we're always working with the ag communities. There's also a lot of engagement when it comes to agricultural impact mitigation agreements. We work with our landowners to make sure, and I think this is where flexibility is really valuable as opposed to prescribed ideas of what agrivoltaics could mean. But when we work with our landowners, we want to make sure they can farm up to a wind turbine, which you can. If you've ever visited one, you can see corn or soybean straight up to the base, basically. And with solar, how can they maximize their land to until a fence? So those are the benefits. I think agrivoltaics means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Certainly, Invenergy has a really robust vegetation management strategy for every single one of our projects. But when you're talking about a large scale 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 acre solar project, widespread agrivoltaics isn't always the best thing for that community. I often like to say that could mean 300 sheep out there. And I think people are going to think something about that too. But ultimately, we're always engaged with agricultural communities.
Thank you. And then thank all the panelists for joining us in this webinar today to talk about all the progress that the state has made so far, and will continue to make as we move things forward with more protections for our workers, more opportunities for our workers, and also continue to invest in the growing clean energy economy that we have. Thank you all for joining us today to learn about all these amazing programs and initiatives. Looking forward to seeing you in the new year.